What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we have another sleeper draft prospect. Today, we're talking about a receiver. Yeah, I'm going to give you guys a late round, potentially UDFA sleeper that you should check out for with the receiver position. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to a video. Glad you guys are here. And we're back with another sleeper, man. It's been a minute since we did a sleeper video. Actually, I don't know what the last one was. Oh, yeah, the last one was the 5. Before that, I don't know. Did we do Elijah Griffin before that? I don't know. I don't remember. Either way, today we have a receiver. This is not a list. It's just one player. But I like this one. I like this one. At first, I thought I had one. And I kept watching. I'm like, I don't think we got one here. So I moved on to a different player. And I think I found one. I think I found a really juicy one. Because even a Texas article, because that's where he went to college, said that he looks like a UDFA. And I'm like, okay, this is a legit sleeper then. The Draft Network had him ranked at 345. So basically, if you use the Draft Network, if you're in the 7th round, he should still be available. That receiver is Brennan Eagles. You may know him, you may not. I don't know. Are there any Texas fans? I didn't know who this guy was until today. 6'3", 225-pound receiver out of Texas. Now, with Brennan Eagles, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Tyrell Williams, which is kind of why I did this, because I was like, all right, I guess it's kind of like a Tyrell Williams type of mold. Not as fast, good speed, not as fast. Maybe kind of like an outside receiver that could stretch the field, be a vertical threat. When you look at these later round picks, it's tough. You got to just find a couple of things and just kind of be like, all right, we can work with this. So I tried to go like way outfield in this one, and I don't know, I think we got a good one, so check him out. Best game that you can watch, I think, at least from what I've seen, is Iowa State. He went off against Iowa State, but we'll get into that. So let's just dive right into it. 6'3", 225. Of course, there is good size there. Good, I would say solid, not even good. I'd say solid speed. Nothing great here. He ran at 4.5, 540, but he did look pretty fast. I mean, he looked faster on the field. He ran really hard. I know that sounds weird, but he just looked like man, he was getting it. Like he was booking it, man, but he wasn't going extremely fast. He's a very long strider. He's a tall receiver. He makes himself a big weapon, a big radius for a quarterback to throw the jump balls to. Does he fit the scheme perfectly? I don't know. I felt like he could get some separation in the back end, but there's still a lot of unknowns underneath, intermediate, short. So, something that definitely have to be determined. But if the Lions were looking for an outside threat that potentially fell to UDFA, this is someone that they could definitely sign, or 7th round if they have a picks there, because they don't have a 6th or a 7th. I probably wouldn't select this guy in the 5th round just because of, the reasons that we're about to get into. But let's just dive right into it. Let's start off with the things that I like about Brennan Eagles. Brennan Eagles, first off, he has some nice build-up speed. As I mentioned, he's a long strider, but I was actually impressed by how quick he can be off the line when he's free, when he's not touched. He's actually pretty explosive off the line. For you get these taller, longer receivers, they can be slower off the line, which makes sense. They're long striders, so it takes them a little bit. Once they get going, they got that great build-up speed. I was kind of impressed by how, hard he runs every single time off the release. I mean, he's just booking it right off the release. I mean, you could just tell this guy's getting it. So I'm not sure what that was. More acceleration than I thought. But he still is kind of like a build-up speed type of runner that can really stretch the defense. And he kind of just finds ways to get behind corners and safeties and kind of just sneak behind him. I know he's a big guy, but kind of just finds his way to do that. Sometimes they lose track of him, and he's able to get deep. He's a vertical threat. No question, he's a vertical threat. He's good at tracking the football. I wouldn't say great here. There were a couple of occasions where he did lose the football, or he wouldn't get himself in ideal position to catch it. Sometimes the sun was just in his eyes. He played at Texas. He's playing outdoors. Sometimes he couldn't see just based on where he was lined up. It was good ball tracking ability for the most part, but there were a couple times where it was like, okay, he's not in the best position here, or, he can't really see that well. There's another thing I like. I know this sounds goofy, but I try to find something unique, which he's one of these guys, and I felt like his sideline awareness was really good. He always seemed to know where the sideline was, getting feet down, inbounds, kind of stopping short of going to the sideline. So I thought that was good, especially at the NFL level. It's different. College, you're getting 1 foot. NFL, you got to get 2. The sideline awareness, knowing where he was on the field, was actually a very big part of him being a boundary set threat for offenses, playing so much on the outside. While he did bump in the slot at times, and you could use him as a big slot if you wanted to, but it helps you on the boundary a lot. So I don't want to say great, but I can say it was above average. I can say that he will block. Always look for that in my receivers. Will they block? Will they show at least the effort? He definitely will show the effort. Is he great? No. Is he going to consistently lock people up? No. But he does have good size. 6'3", 225 is good size for a receiver to block, and he does try. So, you put those together. All right, solid blocker here. nothing that's gonna, like, oh my gosh, you see a block, like, but he's solid with it, and you can trust him to block on screens. Heck, you can trust to throw him screens. I didn't think they'd throw him as many screens as they did. Yeah, they would throw him some screens and mix him in there as well. I think his catch radius is what really sticks him apart from a lot of guys, especially this late in the draft. I believe that he would be a really good type of red zone target, even though I didn't see him very useful in the red zone. So I guess that's more of a projection than anything, because it didn't seem like Texas really got him super involved in the red zone, like throwing up passes to him. But maybe he could be more involved there based on a sign, and the fact that, based on the size, the fact that he had a good vertical. I think it was like 36, 37 inches. Not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's a solid vertical, 3 feet off the ground. Okay, not bad. I can see how that could become, based on certain matchups, a red zone threat where you could throw it up and have him go get the ball in the air, because he does play pretty well through contested situations. He seems to catch everything with his hands. Body catch, and it was on a deep pass, but he caught it. But he doesn't catch many passes with his body. He does a phenomenal job of working back to the football. It's something I took from Devontae Smith, and I really liked about his game, and it's something I've watched for ever since, and he does a great job with that. In man coverage, he works really hard to get back to the football, and in zone coverage, he makes himself kind of a wide base, just kind of spots up for the quarterback, and he's a very big weapon, kind of like Kyle Pitts, not to the same extent, but kind of like that, right? He's not small, so you can easily see him if you're a quarterback when he kind of sets himself up and he runs back to the ball. He'll work 5-10 yards back if that's what it takes to make himself a threat, because for him, he's not short, so he's not super quick out of breaks, which means he's a little bit slower, which means he really has to work back to the football, but he'll work back and he can extend and reach out and make some grabs with his hands. So it makes him a threat on comeback routes, curl routes, out routes, things like that, where you can throw it his direction and he'll fight back to the football. One of my favorite parts of his game, and I think what makes him a really solid vertical threat, is how well he sells his routes. And I read an article, it's like, oh, he doesn't sell routes well. I'm like, oh, man, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm watching this dude plant and boom. I mean, he's selling that as hard as he can. He's got the whole head going with his whole body in one way, and then he shifts it back the other direction. I just felt like he never got the opportunities, the ample opportunities that he could have gotten with Texas to make him explode. So here's basically the background. 2019 with Texas, he put up good numbers, but he was behind Devin Duvernay, Colin Johnson. Remember those two receivers? And then last season, another receiver that basically became number one. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I don't know why I can't think of it. But they also had Tariq Black. He wasn't that involved. But regardless, he never really became the number one for that Texas offense. Now, I think part of that is, dang, like I wish he would have became, a bigger part. Part of that's on him. But another part of it is the fact that Sam Ehlinger is not, he's a quarterback that likes to run the ball. There's no question. Sam Ehlinger likes to run the ball. So, they're not a great passing offense. They're not bad. They're not a great passing offense. For him, I mean, he just didn't get enough opportunities. And I thought the games that you did see him get a lot of shots versus Iowa State, the guy was just eating. I just didn't think he ever got enough. It was like, a couple here, a couple there in games. And it was like, man, give him some chances. And there was times where he was open. He was definitely open. Some of them were great throws. I just felt like he was missing opportunities to be more than what the stats suggested. And I feel like stats, even though we say stats don't tell the whole story, they do play a big factor in how people rank players. I mean, they do. I mean, you see 500 yards and you're like, really? That's your best? You can't even get 600 yards? But then you see those guys with like 1,200. You're like, man, I can't deny there's 1,200 here. I'm not saying that, he's one of the best receivers. My point is, though, I think the fact that he doesn't have the great stats is really what's, hurting him, and it's making him overlooked as a player. This was the type of player that came out of high school as one of the top recruits. He was getting offers from Ohio State, LSU, who else? Auburn. He's getting some of the top colleges to look at him. He decided to choose Texas, though, but he never just became the guy, and I felt like he never had enough opportunities. Now, some of that is because he hasn't shown to be much of a threat underneath in intermediate passes. He's gotten involved there, so I feel like he can do it. You'll see him run drags. Now, granted, he's not the most explosive on drags. He's not super shifty with the ball. However, he will mix in his own little moves to try to get you the stutter step stuff. I see him, staying like, but he's not super explosive with the ball in his hands compared to some of the other players like Tariq Black or something like that you could dump the ball off to and they can run with it. So I understand why he wasn't extremely involved there. And intermediate, you saw that he could do it. Didn't get tons of separation. That was the thing. As much as he would sell routes, as much as he would run hard, and he had a good catch radius, he didn't get separation consistently, and because of the lack of quickness and because of how tall he played. One of the things I think was an issue is he plays really tall. So he doesn't get low enough, and when he stands up tall, he slows himself down. He slows himself down getting into breaks and coming out of them, which makes it much easier for a cornerback to stick in his hip pocket. So as a vertical threat, he kind of levels the playing field because he doesn't, you're just running straight. Sometimes he's throwing a double move, but you're not sinking into routes. For him, he doesn't sink super well in the routes, which really slows him down. Intermediate, short, I would say more more intermediate. Short, he just ran drags. I mean, you can do that, but he wasn't super dynamic with the football in his hands. But it was more the intermediate routes that he doesn't sink super well into his routes. So because of that, he wasn't getting ton of separation. And, quarterbacks in college, they go to the open guy because usually there is an open guy. But in the NFL, you're not always as open. I feel like he can make those contested grabs. He can play through, the strength of a defense. And I wouldn't take a look at a guy if he couldn't do that. This guy I was looking before, I'll give you your name, is Trayvon Grimes. I was looking at him before for Florida, and I wasn't seeing him consistently make plays, through contact. And I was like, yeah, then this ain't the guy for me, because I thought he might have been, but no. But this dude was playing better through contact. And I was like, okay, I could see, how this could work at the NFL level, because if you can catch the ball, that's the first step as my receiver. You got to be able to catch the football for me. He does have a little bit of ability to not even get separation deep, but kind of just get in position. I wouldn't even say get separation. He can kind of position himself in front of a cornerback, even if he's completely even. So it's not that he has that separation knack always deep, because if a guy runs stride for stride with him, but he kind of has a way to put himself in a position to kind of box out a defender when the ball is deep downfield. We looked at Josh Palmer, right? Josh Palmer didn't have stats, but he had ways to win. I don't think this guy has the same amount of ways to win, but I do think that there's always effort, and I love the fact that he gives that. As a route runner, I felt like he gave that. I felt like he sold everything. He ran hard. He tried to block. He could play through contested situations, and honestly, when he got the chances, this guy could have big games. Now, one thing he doesn't do, he doesn't sell, and this is weird, he doesn't sell runs extremely well. He kind of stops, and the defenders know it's coming. So that's one thing I would say, hey, sell the runs a little bit better for us, help us out a little bit there. Also, he did go against number 2 cornerbacks more often than not, because he was kind of like the number 2, not always, but kind of looked at as like the number 2, and he didn't play in their bowl game, but sometimes he'd be going against number 2 corners. Like I said, you can kind of stick in his hip, which is the lack here, and that's probably why he will push down the board, because he's got the size, good speed, but it's not great. It's not something that teams get super excited about, but it is better than some of those other guys out there like your Warren Jackson. Read about him struggling at times to get off the line in press situations. I didn't really see him in press situations. The only time I kind of saw him was like sometimes he would more be focused on trying to run past the defender, and if he couldn't get that separation, instead of playing more physical and fighting his way in bounds. But again, I didn't see really the press at the line things, him struggling to get off, because I didn't see him in those kind of matchups. But I would say he is 225. He has good size, so you would think that he could be able to play through some of that. And also the fact that he does have a nice jab at the line of scrimmage, and he takes off very hard. I feel like maybe that's something that technically wise could be, cleaned up, because physically he has the size. It's not like he's getting probably out muscled there. He may just not know as many ways to win off the line of scrimmage. So that may be more a thing that you technically clean up with his game, because physically wise and effort, I know that he brings that on the release. This is someone that you should definitely take a look at if you want to know about a sleeper wide receiver. And like I said, tomorrow and probably Monday, I don't know if we'll do tomorrow, but at least Monday, we'll be starting breaking in some of these big boards, and look for Brennan Eagles' name on there. All right, let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.